Hook, Bondu 15s. You got the raise. You got the job. You might even have the apartment that younger you would have cried over. And yet, something still feels off, like you're always one bad month away from collapse. Like the number in your bank account and the feeling in your chest are living in completely different realities. You're not broke, but you feel it. And that gap, that's what this is about. Tension 15 to 60s. Right now, across Reddit, across group chats, across therapy couches, people are saying the same thing in different words. I make more than my parents ever did, and I still can't breathe. I got a 6-figure salary, and I feel like a fraud. I'm technically fine. So why does it feel like I'm drowning? This is not a budgeting problem. This is not a discipline problem. This is a psychology problem. And here's what makes it so dangerous. Because it looks like a financial problem from the outside, people keep trying to solve it with financial tools. More income, better spreadsheets, another side hustle. And none of it works. Because they're treating the symptom, not the wound. So let's talk about the actual wound. Body. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the hedonic treadmill. The idea is simple. Humans are remarkably bad at predicting how long happiness will last. We think the promotion will change everything. We think the new apartment will finally make us feel settled. And for about 3 weeks, it does. Then our brain recalibrates. The new normal becomes just normal. And we're back to wanting the next thing. This isn't weakness. This is literally how the brain is wired. But here's the part nobody tells you. The hedonic treadmill doesn't just affect happiness, it affects financial perception. Your brain doesn't experience your salary as an absolute number. It experiences it relative to what you expected, what you had before, and most importantly, what the people around you have. Which brings us to something even more uncomfortable. In 1949, a sociologist named Robert Merton introduced a concept called relative deprivation. The idea that people don't measure their financial well-being against objective reality. They measure it against a reference group, the people they compare themselves to. And here's where 2026 has created something genuinely new and genuinely brutal. For most of human history, your reference group was your neighborhood, your family, the people you could physically see, maybe a few thousand people across your entire lifetime. Now, your reference group is infinite. You scroll past someone's lake house at 7 a.m. before you've even had coffee. You see a 26-year-old's startup exit on LinkedIn. You watch someone your age talk about retiring early on YouTube. And your brain, which evolved to compare you to a tribe of 150 people, is now comparing you to the curated financial highlight reels of 7 billion humans. No wonder nothing feels like enough. But wait, because it gets more layered than that. Here's something the financial world almost never talks about. There's a difference between financial security and financial identity. Security is about the numbers. Identity is about what those numbers mean to you about who you are. And for a huge portion of people right now, especially millennials, especially Gen Z, especially anyone who grew up in a household where money was tight, wealth isn't just a resource. It's proof. Proof that you made it. Proof that you're not your parents' struggle. Proof that you're safe. And here's the psychological trap that creates. When wealth is identity, you can never have enough. Because the goalposts aren't financial, they're emotional. You're not trying to hit a number. You're trying to feel something. Safety, worthiness, validation. And those feelings, they don't come from a savings account. Now, let's talk about something that's happening on a systemic level, because this isn't just individual psychology. The economy itself is making this worse. We are living through what economists are calling a K-shaped recovery. Asset prices, especially housing and equities, have exploded for people who already owned them. Wages have grown, but nowhere near the pace of costs. The middle class is being hollowed out, and the jobs that were supposed to be the ladder, the stable professional jobs, the corporate careers with benefits and a pathway, those are being restructured, downsized, and automated at a rate that is genuinely disorienting. People are being laid off from Meta and crying in the shower. That's not a headline from a recession. That's from right now, May 2026, while stock markets sit near record highs. The instability is real. The anxiety is not irrational. But here's what's interesting psychologically. Even people who haven't been laid off are carrying the anxiety of people who have. There's a term for this: vicarious financial trauma. When enough people in your reference group, your industry, your age group experience financial shock, you start to feel it too. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between a threat that happened to you and one that happened to someone you identify with. So you're walking around with someone else's layoff in your body, and you're wondering why you feel broke. Here's one more layer before we get to what actually matters. There's research out of Princeton, the famous Kahneman and Deaton study, that tried to put a number on the point where more money stops improving emotional well-being. They originally said $75,000. More recent work has pushed that number up. Some researchers say into the $100,000 to $500,000 range, depending on cost of living. But even the researchers who argue there's no ceiling, they all agree on one thing. The relationship between money and happiness is never linear. Meaning, doubling your income does not double your sense of security. The gains diminish. The anxiety doesn't scale down the way the income scales up. Because after a certain point, what you're really dealing with isn't a financial gap. It's an internal one. Climax. Here is the central thing. The thing that ties all of this together. The feeling of not having enough is almost never about the actual number. It's about a story you're carrying. A story that says, when you reach this point, you'll be okay. When you hit this salary, you'll feel safe. When you have this much saved, you can finally exhale. But that point keeps moving. Because the story isn't really about money. It's about the part of you that learned, somewhere early in life, that you were only as okay as your circumstances. That safety was conditional. That you had to earn the right to feel secure. And no salary in the world can heal that, because it was never a financial wound. Ending. None of this means money doesn't matter. It does, profoundly. Real financial insecurity is real. The cost of living crisis is real. The anxiety people feel right now watching entire industries restructure in real time, that's not in their heads. But there's a version of financial anxiety that lives entirely in the mind. That would exist no matter what the bank account said. And until you can tell the difference between those two things, between the actual gap and the perceived one, you'll keep solving the wrong problem. You'll keep running on a treadmill that was never designed to take you anywhere. Maybe the most financially intelligent thing you can do right now isn't to earn more. Maybe it's to understand why enough never feels like enough. Because the person who figures that out is already richer than most.